When trouble threatens Good Haven, the call goes out for the mighty heroes: Strong Man, Cuckoo Man, Tornado Man, Rope Man, and Diaper Man. What the heck am I talking about? I am talking about the Mighty Heroes cartoon that ran from 1966 to 1967, and maybe is most importantly remembered because it was created by Ralph Bakshi, directed by him, and this is kind of one of the first, things that he did in animation. I mean, and smaller things, but this was big. This unleashed Ralph Bakshi on the world of animation. The story goes that Bakshi was tasked with accompanying his boss to a meeting with the legendary Fred Silverman of CBS. Now, Bakshi was meant to basically carry the presentation boards, for his boss and, move him while he was talking, because Terrytoons was trying to sell some cartoons to the network. Well, when Silverman rejected all of those ideas, Bakshi leapt in and made an ad hoc pitch for a superhero cartoon. Now, the late 60s was packed with superhero action comedy, thanks to Batman and Adam West. You had Captain Nice on NBC in 1967, starring the great William Daniels, the voice of Kit and Knight Rider. He was in St. Elsewhere. For all those millennials out there, yes, that's Mr. Feeney. He was a milksop who discovers a secret formula that gives him super strength and vulnerability and the power of flight. Mr. Terrific on CBS in 1967 starred Stephen Strimple as Stanley Beamish, a scrawny government worker who takes a power pill that gives him the strength of 1,000 men and enables him to fly furiously, flapping his arms. The pill lasts for just an hour, pretty much like Our Man and Underdog. In cartoons, well, you had Underdog, and you had Super Chicken, and you had Adam Ant. And of course, we were also in the era of Mad Magazine and Laugh-In, satire, parody, etc. Well, most of these other attempts at comedy heroes kind of failed where Batman succeeded. At least for a while, it succeeded. I think this was because Batman actually had a more sophisticated comedy than a lot of people think. A very, very deadpan, very tongue-in-cheek. It also had some legit action for the kids, along with all the cool gadgets and the Batmobile. And most of all, it was a very joyful show. No acid, no sneering. It just wasn't that kind of thing. I think Bakshi managed to capture something similar to that with the Mighty Heroes. It is corny as heck, and maybe it shouldn't work, but for me, it really did. The heroes have lots of personality. Not complex personalities, but what personality they do have, they have a lot of. Although it sounds like Bakshi was not entirely happy with his lack of control over the cartoon. He would soon strike out on his own with a fantasy concept called T-Wit. Silverman rejected it. It would go on to become the basis for Wizards. But despite that lack of control, I think he did an amazing job with the Mighty Heroes. The basic storyline would introduce the villain and launch their scheme. In this case, it's a dude who wants to freeze the whole world. The call then goes out for the Mighty Heroes, and they respond and go looking for the bad guy. They find the bad guy, they get involved in a fight, and they usually lose because they rushed in without thinking, or sometimes just general clumsiness kind of screws them up. Of course, they'll wind up captured. In this case, they're going up against a bunch of monstrous snowmen who they cannot really punch or grab or get a hold of, and that's why the whole thing kind of falls apart for them. But the heroes regroup, they fight back. In this case, they were frozen in ice and managed to break out by using Diaper Man's bottle, which was frozen solid enough to crack the ice when it was in the hands of Strong Man. Along the way, you get a lot of sight gags. You get a lot of funny lines, really just dad jokes and bad puns. For example, never try to steal a baby's bottle. And finally, they win, and the bad guy gets thrown in prison or something like that. Now, each of these cartoons is just over 7 minutes long, about the length of a Golden Age big screen cartoon, so they don't have any time to waste. The focus of the show is on the goofy jokes and the fun designs of the heroes and the villains. They're very fast-paced, and when you get down to it, they're really at heart about never giving up. Keep the fight going until you've won, until you've succeeded, which is not a bad lesson for kids. Our heroes in the series, as I mentioned before, are Strongman, a mechanic who is really, really strong and can fly and has sort of a southern accent. Rope Man, a sailor who turns into living rope and can fly. By the way, very similar powers to James Twiggy Sanders / Spaghetti Man of the Super Globetrotters. Tornado Man is a meteorologist who can turn into a whirlwind and fly. He seems to be the oldest member of the squad and is often the voice of reason for them. Cuckoo Man, who owns a pet store and isn't very strong, and he can fly very slowly. He's the goofiest of the group, maybe the most mild-mannered, but he's still in there, fighting no matter what. And then Diaper Man, a baby who seems to derive strength from his bottle, and he sometimes gives Strongman a swig to help him out. And of course, he can fly, and he has an alarmingly deep voice. And what I've just told you is about all you get in terms of, character development. It's just not that kind of show. The villains are just as goofy as the heroes. Usually they have sharpened teeth, a la the victims in early Simon Kirby Captain America comics, but they're great designs, very colorful. Now, the show was a segment on Mighty Mouse Playhouse, which I think they later renamed, and Bakshi would revive the characters for his groundbreaking 80s cartoon, Mighty Mouse and the New Adventures, now as adults who have become accountants and left superheroics behind, but they have to come out one more time to help good old Mighty Mouse. And yeah, Diaper Man's still wearing the diaper because, hey, that's his costume and that's how it is. The style is very much of its day. It's maybe not what you would expect, later on from Ralph Bakshi, but it's very, very 1960s. Kind of reminds me a little bit of the Hawaiian Punch mascot, Punchy, who premiered in 61. It's that, kind of thicker lines, simple shapes, not going for something very realistic. It's very cartoony. But again, it's very much of its time. The Mighty Heroes is a fun cartoon. It's not necessarily groundbreaking. It's certainly not sophisticated, but it's fun. And there has to be room for fun in the world, especially when it comes to kids' cartoons. Now, knowing Bakshi's ambitions and abilities, you can understand why he wasn't completely happy with it. He could have done so much more with the concept in terms of humor and satire, if it wasn't like a Saturday morning cartoon with a relatively small budget. But I think he did the best he could with what he had, and he produced a creative cartoon that really did get a few laughs out of me, and I think which is a good addition to the comedy superhero thing of the 1960s. It holds up surprisingly well, goofy but very endearing, and something I think that you should really, give a shot and take a look at. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you are a big fan of the Mighty Heroes, you can find the Mighty Heroes on Tubi right now. Strangely enough, though, it's not done in episode form. It's just one big long stretch of all the cartoons. But of course, if you have a Tubi account, you don't have to watch them all at once. You could break it up a little bit. I think you could find it maybe elsewhere. And pretty soon, it's going to be showing on MeTV Toons, their cartoon network. That's a over-the-air channel, but I think it's also on certain, cable providers. They're going to have a Terrytoons segment that will probably include the Mighty Heroes, and I believe will also include the New Adventures of Mighty Mouse. So it's out there. Go give it a look. I think you might have fun with it. Again, it's not like complex superhero stories. It's a bunch of goofy jokes. It's some fun animation, colorful, bright, and joyful. All right. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Maybe think of subscribing, sharing with a friend. That would be very cool. But until next time, God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another. Have a little bit of fun out there. Watch some mighty heroes. And I will see you again hopefully soon in Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Bye-bye.